Hello, this is Nancy Mascott of ABN Newswire. I'm here today at the Vancouver Greenrush Conference being held in beautiful downtown Vancouver at the Convention Centre. It's the first of its kind conference with a focus on the marijuana and cannabis industry. It's been the buzz lately, so it's a perfect time to come to a conference that has an excellent speaker lineup which can address some of the issues that come up on this topic. NextGen is a sponsor of the conference, and I'm pleased to have today the CEO and President of NextGen, Harry Barr. Thank you for joining me, Harry.
Thanks for having us, Nancy.
So I understand that you have some background and history of this topic and this sector. Could you tell me how long you've been involved?
Yes, my family started in 1866 with a family farm that we still have today in the Ottawa Valley. My grandfather, Harry Barr, grew industrial hemp on the farm for the War Act in the late 30s and 40s. I went to the University of Guelph, studied agribusiness, and then I had a crazy old uncle who I called John Wayne Gone Mad, who at 73 bought a gold mine in the jungles of Colombia, and I was 23, and down I went to run his gold mine. Got hooked on that, followed the cannabis industry over the years, more in hemp, because in 1998 they changed the laws in Canada, and I almost took one of my public companies in mining into that industry then. In fact, this same hotel had, at that time, the biggest cannabis, but focused on industrial hemp convention in Canada. So I brought my companies down, and I came very close to doing that, but luckily made a massive discovery the next spring, and that put us, full tilt into a project we still have in Ontario today.
Okay, so brings me to the question is why now?
Well, we had 4 companies. Nancy, we've had just a terrible time for junior companies in the last 3 years in the mining industry. We've started our 4th, and I'm soon to be 60. My men 20 years older than I am that I respect have never seen it as bad for the junior industry in terms of raising the venture capital to go out and drill and do all the risky things. So we had 4 companies. So about a year ago we said, why not look at different industries? And we looked at oil and gas, we looked at real estate. I've had a bunch of bars that were successful, so I looked at the things I knew. And then one day in our hockey box that all of us, our mining guys, wanted to get rid of, not just because the Canucks aren't doing well, but because we really couldn't afford it, came a young man, and he had what I call the voice. And he talked about the medical marijuana industry. So that hockey box over the years, we've raised millions of dollars in it when there was money, because we would take people there and we'd have time with them. That fellow introduced us to the industry, and my son and I, who just graduated from McGill in finance, said, wow, this is probably the one. Then we just dove into it. And then we went to our board of directors in early January. We said, can we change the industry? They said, wonderful. These are mining people.
Yes.
I was afraid to talk to them about it. They said, absolutely. It's a very topical thing. I mean, from 8 to 80 people kind of have something to do with understanding medical marijuana or marijuana. So that's how it all started. On the 26th day of February, we announced that we were in the industry and that we were a company that was going to do something a little bit different. We were going to invest in a basket of companies. We weren't going to be a grow operation. We were going to finance the companies like the picks and shovel companies in mining. And we were going to finance them, and we were going to buy into a basket of these companies. And that would be like the seed companies. But the first thing we decided to do is have a 100% owned company that generated cash right away. So on March 20th, we announced the fact that we just formed Greenrush Financial Conferences. And with a brand new industry, and this being Vancouver, the venture capital city of the world, I used to have a Swiss fellow who helped me for 20 years, and he had a great line. This was talking about the old Vancouver Stock Exchange, which got bought by the venture. He used to say, if there was no Vancouver Stock Exchange, someone would have to invent one. Yes. So we are here in a city where there's over 2,000 companies that actually finance not just mining, but technology, health, many different aspects. So it was easy for us to cross over. Easy because I'm a farmer at heart. I have a farm in Maui, I have a small farm back east, and my parents left me part of the original farm. And I've never had a holiday in BC in 30 years. I always go back to the family farm.
Okay.
And I was just there last weekend when my brother turned 50. And have you ever had somebody who lives in a little place called the Bar Line, where my ancestors went in 1866 with axes? Right. His wife was going to have a party there. Then it was going to be at the local hotel, and they had to move into town because 300 people came to see my brother for 50. Because that family's been there since 1866. So we're farmers. I went to the University of Guelph. I knew this. It was an easy transition. It really was. Because what we do is capital markets. We know how to finance things. Our group's raised over $300 million non-brokered. In other words, our group raised it. And we've done over 300 deals with some of the biggest companies in the world.
Very good.
Yeah.
Well, this conference has been very well received so far.
Yes.
We've had, how many booths do we have at the conference?
We sold out with 44 I think. I stand to be corrected because a couple came in right at the end.
Right.
And a conference guy can always find one more space.
Yeah,
You know
that's right.
So we did that, and the speakers are unbelievable. We had so many we had to turn down. We made it a one-day conference, and it could have been a 3-day.
Yes.
And then we go to Toronto after this on the 26th day of June.
Right.
It's a Thursday. We have the Toronto conference, and from there we're going to go across to the big cities in Canada. We're going to hit several U.S. states, and then we're going to go to where I've gone all my life, to the European countries where I've raised all the money. And we're going to go back to people who at least know my name, they know what I'm doing, and we're going to have to explain to them, well, why are you here? We have to educate them. This is about education, this conference. It's a big part of it.
Yes, and that's what's really needed at this stage. There's a lot of misconceptions about this topic, and I think that's an important part. If you could just mention, maybe, I don't want to not include anyone, but just a couple of the people that you do have here that are going to be educating some of the people attending.
Yeah. Well, on the financial side, Mr. Bruce Linton, I've got to introduce him pretty soon. He's going to speak, I think, around 1:30. He and his group, his team, they changed really the whole financing in this country. Because a week and a half ago, they did a bought deal, which means the brokerage company put their name on it and had to give them that for $15 million. It was institutional.
Right.
That's a first. Secondly, we just had Dr. Paul Hornby. He studied his whole career. He's not a medical doctor, but he studied this industry forever. And I mean, the things that he told us, what could happen if this gets legalized, especially in the one I understand the most, that's industrial hemp.
Yes.
Because my grandfather grew it, I studied in school, I almost got into the industry in the old days. It's legal in this country. In the United States, it's not yet. Obama just said, I would say, Mr. Obama, a couple months ago, he said, we're going to let a couple of universities study it. Meanwhile, he's got farmers in all the Midwest going, study it. We used to grow it. Our ancestors grow. Let us grow it again. Let us feed the world with it. It grows in warm climates 14 feet high. And when you take out the juices from it, it's a food. There's so many uses for it. It's a protein that can feed the world. It's a medicine. And more importantly, if you go around the corner here and get to the booth of the U.S. Association for Hemp, or the Canadian one, they'll show you can build buildings with this stuff. Henry Ford had a car way back in the old days that was made out of industrial hemp, and he hits it with a sledgehammer in an old video. You can't break it. It has so many uses. It will change the world.
Yeah. Well, it sounds very exciting, Harry.
It is.
I appreciate you joining me here today. I would like to just say, if someone wanted to get in contact with you or wanted to go to your website, would you provide me with that information?
Yes, I will. And we do trade in the United States on the pinks. I should know the symbol right now. I'm too excited to know my own symbol. We trade in Germany. And you can get to our site by going to www.nextgenmetals.com and or www.greenrushfinancialconferences.com and or internationalmetalsgroup.com. So that'll get you there.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much for joining me today, Harry. I appreciate it. It's Nancy Mascott with ABN Newswire.